Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us on another episode of Gaming on the Block. I'm Metamona here tonight with my great friends TSG and Annie, bringing you the hottest topics in metaverse, gaming, NFTs. Oh, tonight's gonna be about NFTs, guys. But we even talk about life, whatever you like. We got you.
Relationships, everything.
No, relationships, not me. That's Annie. That's Annie and TSG.
And definitely not financial advice. We won't do any of that on here. But basically everything else is fair game.
That's right. Yeah. Well, it is Tuesday evening in the US, Wednesday morning in Asia where TSG resides. It's too early for TSG, but look at him. He's looking sharp as always. And he's always ready. What's going on, guys?
It's really good to be back with you, Mona. We actually missed the last episode with you able to join us. So we had Murph on from Decentraland, which was great.
I love Murph. How was it, guys?
He's a good dude, and as much heck as we give Decentraland for some of their metaverse plays, he's really knowledgeable. And again, some of the open discussion about the Fashion Week that they had going on a couple weeks ago now, super interesting, and excited to see how they've been pivoting as a company over the last years. TSG, what about you, man? How are you doing?
Yeah, solid, man. I'm excited. Again, we've had a look at the topics for today, and I'll be honest, man, I'm pretty excited. I think it's going to be a lot of good conversation, so I'm keen to get into it.
Mm-hmm. Me too. Annie, what's on the agenda today?
We're going to recap NFT NYC. So if you are listening to this episode, you probably are familiar with what it was, but we had the advantage that two of your co-hosts here were at NFT NYC together. That would be me and Miss Mona. Unfortunately, TSG, we got to get you
TSG next year. We're bringing TSG next year. Right?
Next year.
Yeah.
Next year, man. This has got to happen. We got to look for something like halfway in the middle. If
Because I need to fly long.
Hawaii or something, that would be great.
Wait, does Illuvium have a jet? Can we put you in the Illuvium jet?
It's coming. It's being worked on right now in the shop. It's in the shop.
We're also going to hit on some gaming topics. The main one being what does hardcore mode look like in Web3 gaming? So this is an interesting topic. We've had a few games that have come out recently with hardcore mode versions. It's going to be an interesting take on this. Mona, we already chatted beforehand about it.
I was so mad.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
Mona's not the biggest fan, but we don't want to.
Because I'm a baby gamer. I like the most simplest games. But anyways, we'll talk about that.
And then hyper casual versus AAA games. What is the future of Web3 gaming going to look like? Who is going to take the pole position? Will it be the casual gameplay, mobile enabled, for instance, or are we going to see AAA titles really capture the mind share of the sector? As always, this episode is sponsored by Ethlizards, and Ethlizards has some major activities going on. And so we'll share a little bit about that. We've teased it over the past couple episodes, but I will highlight it for a few minutes on the tail end of today, what Ethlizards is doing. Mona, let's talk about NFT NYC.
Let's talk about NFT NYC, but before we do, why don't we look at these highlights? From NFT use cases to all the latest in AI, NFT NYC 23 hit all the hot topics in Web3. With thousands of attendees, energy was super high here at the Javits Center. Let's look at the highlights.
You can actually feel the energy when you walk in the building. There's a lot of different people around a lot of different places inside of the industry. And so it's great to see kind of that convergence of community.
I get to see everybody that I've been friends with, that I talk to, that I Twitter with. It's a camaraderie. You know, everybody's here together, and all the best ideas come together when people are in person.
Having NFT NYC in one single place is really a treat. You get to meet everybody, very close by. So happy to be here.
What buzzwords are you hearing this year, and what are you excited about?
Only one. We both know there's only one. It's AI. That's it.
For me, it's always about the future. And I think we've got this new incredible toy to play with called AI. So it really enables people to do things that they only could imagine doing or they needed other people to do for them.
We're going to see all kinds of AI-generated collections. We've actually done one with our blockchain heroes.
incredible energy, a lot of optimism. Most of these people are builders. They're creating companies, they're creating protocols. They are sort of unfazed by the perturbations of the market. So, a lot of optimism.
Honestly, seeing the entire conference being unfolded on just day one, I'm excited. The biggest thing is just a passion for what's possible in this space, in this industry.
As the market has shifted into a bear market, we see way more developers and builders and people who genuinely care about the space than a bunch of people in it for short-term money. So I greatly prefer conferences in bear markets, and I think the attendance has been fantastic, and more importantly, has been people you genuinely want to spend time with.
We'll show up because it's important to support each other and to support events like this, because we need these moments where we're together to re-energize and to learn and to share and to feel a bit of excitement. So I think it's that reinvigoration that I look for in these kind of events.
You know our three values. We bring people together, we put passionate people on stage, and then we proselytize to the broader community. That's our mission here. And our fourth value is let's use NFTs to create engagement. It's been really fun, and watching people engage with NFTs is really what it's all about for me. That's why I'm here. I mean, we are tech people, we're not event people. We do this because we are deeply passionate and we love the technology.
And that is what you guys missed. There was actually so much you guys missed. TSG, you would have loved it. Should I go ahead and go first and tell you what my takeaway was?
What was your final overview leaving NFT NYC?
What stood out to me the most was this year, for the first time ever, everyone was under the same roof. That facility, Javits Center, was unbelievable. It was beautiful. It was big. Everyone was under the same roof, which made it great. Let me hear right on that, Annie. Did you like the facility? It was huge, right?
Yeah. I thought it was actually very well put together. The facility, the location was great. The layout was really well done. We, as is probably appropriate, had the gaming sector buried on the floor beneath the rest of the core NFT projects, which is probably how all of us gamers liked it, just being able to go lock ourselves in the basement for a bit and hang out with each other, just like the old school LAN parties. But it was, I thought it was really neat to be able to see everyone all there together. Lots of great projects, and the energy was palpable.
Yes.
So, really impressed by the organization. It felt, a different vibe because it's Web3, but it felt, as well put on as any of the professional conferences I can recall being.
When I interviewed Jody, the co-founder of NFT NYC, I asked them, I said, how does this event differ from all the other events? This was the 6th event. And he said, and this is something I'm sure, Annie, you noticed too, I think last year it was really about speculative NFTs, right? And then this year really settled down into utility. A lot of brands like the NFL was there, Ticketmaster was there, Amazon was there. They were talking about NFTs, real life use cases, and really talking about commercializing NFTs. But of course, I don't know, Annie, if you noticed, I'm sure you probably noticed this, the buzzword, a lot of talks on the intersection of AI with blockchain and then NFTs, of course, as well. And then how AI can make processes more efficient, especially when it comes to NFTs. One of my favorite interviews was with the CEO of Upland. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Upland. Edon is his name. He told me that in his opinion, AI in the metaverse, we talked about AI in the metaverse, and he said it's going to help user-generated creation more accessible and more democratized for the masses, which was very interesting to me because in the past, if you think about it, you needed like skilled designers with 3D modeling, right, for NFTs, or you had to hire a designer, but now machines are going to do the heavy lifting, and then we're just going to have to get it production ready. So he thought this could actually bring more jobs into the metaverse. So AI was definitely on everybody's mind and was coming up on every stage. And then again, real use cases and one of my favorite real world NFT use case projects, and I want to hear about your favorite project, Annie. For me, it was Upland. They're, in addition to their whole metaverse project, they're launching a project called the Species Foundation. Annie, did you hear about this?
Did
you hear what Upland is? Oh my gosh, this is crazy. They're going to make all species into digital forms that can be adopted by any virtual world or games. That's crazy, right? Talk about like real world use case. What was your favorite, Annie?
I actually really enjoyed getting to see a couple playable demos. So as our audience knows, I was pretty much exclusively focused on the gaming ecosystem and then a lot of the infrastructure partners. Saw some really good projects in like the analytics space, in the security space. But for me, as a lifelong gamer, if I get a chance to see gameplay that's being put out by a project that I've been following for a while that hasn't been released yet, I'm 100% there. And so for me, the highlight two projects in particular, Azra, they had a playable demo. And this was the first time I'd seen really any gameplay at all, but they had a playable on mobile demo of a boss fight. Very well put together. Feels like you would not be able to tell the difference between this and a top tier Web 2 game. Again, I know it's curated content just for that particular in-game experience, but if you would have confused it with an Elden Ring boss fight or Dark Souls or something similar, if you didn't know better. The second one was Metalcore. So they had, they've already had their gameplay available, but they had added now the sort of tutorial intro mode to the game. And so normally, as you've been playing, you just kind of get dropped in and you have to figure it all out. Well, this one actually walked you through the gameplay and being able to see kind of that education experience as you unlock different aspects of the game. Very impressive. And I think they're making some good strides as well. That was for sure the highlight of my experience as far as seeing different projects there.
Yo, can I ask? Sorry, Mona, I'm actually really curious, Annie, because you focused on the gameplay, right? With the gameplay that you did see, was the majority, did the majority leave you with positive sentiment, or was the majority still like, oh man, we still have a long way to go in regards to what you saw in gameplay?
Yeah, so for those two projects in particular, there's still a lot of content that needs to be developed. Neither one of them is going to be launching anything, fully ready until I don't think next year. They might have some early builds, betas out. But again, the quality is what I would have expected to see at this point for them to be able to launch well going into 2024. There were a bunch of other projects that I had a chance to see there. I'm not going to name any other names specifically because a lot of them were really too early to tell if it was going to be good quality or not. I did see some projects that seemed probably more forgettable, but at the end of the day, I'm definitely more bullish on the sector than I was before I attended the conference.
Yeah, awesome. And again, I'd love to ask both of you guys as well, because again, Mona, you kind of mentioned that last year was a lot more speculative, or the previous years, I'm sure, 100% more speculative. With going into it now, like we're pretty much in the middle of the bear market, potentially, none of this is financial advice, potentially nearing the end of it with just the little pumps that we're seeing with ETH and Bitcoin and things like that. What was the sentiment? Because there was a little bit of a dead zone for NFTs for quite a while. People were just like, all right, look, we don't care about it. Like you said, AI was the buzzword. People shifted their views from NFTs to AI in general. But how was it? Were there quite a few people there? Is the sentiment, yo, guys, were like, did it feel like anything slowed down? Or how did it feel like in real life?
Everyone, the Javits Center is so huge. So I think we had around 6,000 people, but don't quote me on that. But it just ate up all the people, and the building is soundproof. So everything is quiet. So we're like, why is it so quiet in here? But I mean, the rooms were full, and again, I think use cases, everybody just was there to talk about how can we use this technology in our brand, in our day-to-day. I mean, one of the people that really blew up the room was Congressman Donalds from District 19 in Florida. When he started talking, like everybody just was listening. And he was saying, I am very interested in the blockchain technology and NFT use cases to incorporate that into medical, in education, in classrooms, and to create jobs through blockchain technology. And when he said that, like the room just, so
Erupted.
I think people, people were like, yes, everyone's going to move to Florida.
Yeah.
And of course, he was Republican. And, but again, again, everybody wants to hear, okay, we're over the PFP. Now what? Right? When we are over that. Now people are really talking about how can this change lives? How can this bring jobs? Why should people pay attention to this? Where can we use this? There was real estate, there was finance, there was, of course, gaming, and there was, but Amazon was right there. NFL is very interested. I listened to the whole NFL panel. They're like, the guys like, they put me here to do research 20 hours a week. I'm over full time right now working on this. I think everyone is just, was there who is really here to do real work with NFTs and the technology, and then to see how they can incorporate AI into it as well.
I don't know. The feeling that I get is like the quote that comes to my mind as you say all of this is we overestimate how much we can achieve in a year, but underestimate how much we can achieve in 5, right? I think that's the way it was. Everyone was like, yo, the NFT is going to be a thing next year. Like, yo, we're already there. But it's like, no, it's going to take a couple of years. Like, we're starting to see these big brands come into the space and make meaningful decisions. Because, again, these guys aren't here for a quick buck. It's not bad. It's not a good thing for their reputation. So they're going to need to think this out, strategize. And being in a big brand, they've got PR that they need to worry about. And they just move slower because of that. It doesn't mean that they're not interested. And like you said, I think we're seeing the interest from these big global brands. And it's going to be fascinating, man. I think I'm kind of glad all of the not all of it, the majority of the speculation and hype has kind of settled down a little bit. And we are kind of really building now. Because I think the people that are still here understand, all right, cool, it's going to be a couple of years still. We're all building something that is going to take a bit of time. But once it is done and implemented in that way, it is going to have major effects, like you say, in banking and in fucking the way we DeFi in finance, in schooling, medical, all of these things. So it's fascinating that you say that. I'm glad that is the case, and that was the case in real life as well.
Yeah, it was definitely the right spot. If you're building in the sector today, making good connections with people, figuring out who's actually here for the technology, as we like to say, right? It's speculation is great, but at the end of the day, only the projects that are really building sustainably are going to be the ones that endure. And so being able to see a lot of those founders was awesome. So I definitely encourage anyone, if you're interested and have never been to a Web3 event, definitely take the opportunity. And what I would advise for people is make sure that you're intentional about using your time well, right? There's a lot of folks that are going to be there at one of those. Set up meetings in advance, identify what's your core purpose, who are the people, what are the projects that you're trying to interact with and engage with, and then stick to it. Parties are fine, but recognize when you need to be working and be professional.
We work in this space? That's a thing that happens?
Yeah, I think so anyways. That's what I've heard.
I will say that I did not even attend one side event this year. Sad to say, I can't speak for Annie, but I didn't. And I'm sad about it. But it's just by the time I was done doing coverage, I was dead in bed. But I heard side events were good too. So
they were good. Yeah, I would say both Immutable and Polygon had. I think probably the largest events that were there, with several hundred folks at both of them. Very well put together. And again, you could just see like the sector continues to ramp up. And, these larger players on the chains are drawing a lot of attention. They've got a lot of business development work that's been ongoing to, bring different projects and builders into their ecosystems. And getting to see and meet all of them was pretty impressive. So kudos to both of those projects. Yeah. Looking forward to what's up next. I think we got 3XP and some others that are going to be coming on later this year.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, we have VCon coming up too. Yeah, I mean, all walks of life.
VCon.
Yeah, VCon is coming up. Oh, by the way, quickly, I want to say this, something very interesting that I had never seen at any other NFT NYC or any other events, Web3 events. There was an autistic girl that did a speech on stage, and I interviewed her mom. And she told me that her daughter has been, dealing with autism all her life, and she couldn't even hold a pencil. Somehow, some way, this girl understands NFTs, and she is so great at it. She has 5 books on Amazon, and her mom was a testament that NFTs have changed my daughter's life. I mean, it was like such a inspiring story. So it just goes to show you, you don't have to be, people think, oh, I have to be coder or into gaming or into my friend Bubbles, who's a nail tech. You would think, what would a nail tech do in the metaverse, right? She has a whole world made where on the first floor, there's, nail inspiration. Her second floor is nail history, where she takes you and educates you on nail history. And the third floor is nail commerce, where you can order her nails and it gets shipped to your house. So all of this to say that this space, whether it's NFTs or Web3, is for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's such a tight community that when you come to these events, they're the best place to meet the right people in your genre and connect with those people and ask them to help you. And everybody's willing to help. So that's why it's so, so, so important, honestly, to go to these events. But you have to pick and choose the right events.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Luva Fest, right? That's one that I can't miss at all. So that will happen.
There you go.
All right, Annie, take us to hardcore mode. Let me get mad. Go ahead.
That's a sentence
Go ahead,
and a half.
Annie.
So speaking of things that you can't miss, so as Mona and I were talking about this at NFT NYC, she was visibly getting frustrated at the concept. So for our audience members that are not familiar, hardcore mode is a game type that a lot of projects and a lot of games in Web 2 have introduced over the last decade or so to increase the difficulty of the game. So what commonly happens is in most video games, you're able to keep playing through either getting an additional life or just respawning and restarting. You can retry a level again, and so eventually, just through sheer repetition, dumb luck, you're able to progress in a game as long as you're willing to put in enough time, or in some cases, maybe just pay enough money. There's certainly pay-to-win elements as well. Well, what game designers have figured out is eventually just ramping up the health of enemies or like the length or the duration of a level doesn't add enough challenge. It's just kind of more of the same. And so in order to
man.
Well,
yes, it does.
Says the gamers that want the biggest challenges. So
okay.
So what the game studios have done is they've introduced what is commonly called a hardcore mode, which generally means once you die one time, you're restarting the entire game from scratch. There's different variations on this, but in general, it's usually going to mean that you'll have had 50, 100, 300 hours worth of gameplay lost instantaneously if you make a wrong move, right? So when we're talking about hardcore mode, this is what we're referring to. And I want to talk about what does hardcore mode look like with Web3 attached. The interesting point is we've seen a couple projects already either announce or have gameplay out that have variations of this today, namely Dead Drop, Machines Arena, and Nor. And so we can talk through those mechanics in a minute. But TSG, I want to come over to you first, and I just want to let
Good idea.
Sink into the hate and the rage.
Fester in it.
What's your take on hardcore mode in general from maybe a Web 2 gaming perspective? Fan, not a fan of it?
Yo, I love it. I love it. I am that type of person that Mona's like, yo, what the hell is wrong with them? Like,
what is wrong with you guys?
I always put it a bit like high, the difficulty a bit higher, just because I'm like, oh man, I want to feel like, oh, I did some shit. I personally love it. I know the one game that really comes to mind with hardcore mode in Web 2 was Diablo. I know that they've got a thing that once you create a character, if you die, that's it, your character's done so. Which is very similar to Nor and what they're doing, right? I'll be honest, I've never played hardcore mode in Diablo, but I like more difficult shit. But again, now that I'm starting to think about it, I'm like, For content, if I was to do like a long stream, that might make a lot of sense. Like every stream could be a new stream, right? It could be a new thing. Yo, how far can I get? Maybe one stream I don't die, but then the next time I can continue. Like it's pretty much unlimited content with that concept. You can tell that I'm a content creator, how that's the first thing that I think of. People do crazy challenges online, man. Like Dark Souls is another incredibly difficult game. I don't know what the hardcore mode is, if it's just increased difficulty, but there was some guy who, we call him Nuzlocke, right? Like pretty much the same thing. In Pokemon, you have Pokemon Nuzlocke that if one of your Pokemon dies, that's it. You can't use that anymore. Like it's done. Like you get rid of it. Same with, there's a guy that recently did Dark Souls. For anyone that doesn't know, it's an incredibly difficult game. They did Dark Souls, and if they got hit once, they started the game again, and it was all done on stream. So he legit, every time he just lost some health, he started it again. So that's like the ultimate hardcore mode. It's like you need to perfect this fucking game, which he did. And there's another guy who beat Dark Souls with just one hand. Like it was, I don't even know how the fuck that was possible. Yeah, people like inherently, content creators, I realize, inherently do hardcore mode, or they set it up in that way just for themselves. So I think having that option in-game is really, really cool. I'm not a fan of only having hardcore mode. I think there should be a casual mode and a hardcore mode, and allowing the player to choose.
You guys are gamers. I'm a mainstream gamer. I am like, you can't do that to us, right? You got to give us options. That's all I'm fighting for. I'm the little baby mainstream gamer who wants to just have fun. You give me that, I'm going to be so frustrated. I'm out. Annie, there's like, they're removing visual prompts in some of the games. Like what? Did I read that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so I think it all comes back to trying to find as much variation in the difficulty as you can build into the game. But for sure, TSG, you're 100% right. When you think about the reasons that it gets a lot of traction, for sure, advanced difficulty for the players is one. Esports is another huge one, right? If you can have competitions and it's literally single elimination and you're out for good, or if you've got content creators, this is a situation you hear about. Brooks talk about it in NOR, in the Web3 space. For winning to mean anything, losing has to mean everything. As a player, if you have that sense of actual risk, it means a lot more. And as a spectator, it means order of magnitude more. I can absolutely validate that in terms of like Path of Exile or any of these other games that you'll watch a streamer who they're entering an uber difficult map and they're going to try and clear the thing. And then as they're on stream, they're going, and all of a sudden, it could be as bad as like they just have a lag spike and like they come back and they're dead, which is absolutely the worst. So I have trouble getting into hardcore mode is because a lot of times I'll have a bad internet connection, which is not a surprise to anyone who's watched my streams before. And then I'll come back and my character's dead, and that's just absolutely mad.
So mad.
But from a viewer perspective, it's a lot more intriguing knowing that everything is on the line in any individual fight. So this is as close to sort of real life as you can get. If you have an option and we say, good, there's the casual option, but there's this hardcore option. And let's say that the NFTs that you might be able to get, let's say it's colonized Mars, right?
No, listen now. I see what you're doing there.
And when you have your colony, and if all of your colonists die, you're out and you're restarting. But that's the only way that you can get access to the uber high quality NFTs.
Oh, man. Of course you would do that because you have to tie it to Web3, don't you, Annie?
Yes. Exactly. So this is the question. With Web3, how does that change the concept of hardcore mode?
Yeah. I mean, you're introduced. I mean, we're all competitive, right? And gamers are the most competitive. Now you're going to put in NFTs in the mix. Oh, it's game over. Everybody's coming this direction. Why wouldn't you?
I'm realizing, like, because a game that I was recently playing, I got back into, and I can't believe I did, Borderlands 3. It's like a loot box, not loot box, but it's like you're going around, I think it's called loot box, right? Where you kill a boss, it drops some shit. Maybe it's not what you want, so you go back and do the same thing to try to get the best things. I think, having like a tier of NFTs, I won't say NFTs, a tier of gaming assets locked behind hardcore mode would be sick. Like, it incentivizes, it's like, yo, if you have that, either you bought that from someone for probably a hefty price or you earned it. And I think that is a cool thing to do. And again, not having it as guaranteed, but like that's why I say have a tier of them. So it's like randomized. So you don't know, and it keeps you coming back to it and trying to complete that collection, get everything. That to me makes a lot of sense. And I can see real value in doing that. And Annie, all of the things you said about spectators and stuff, I completely agree. But at the end of the day, and we had a conversation about this before we went live, but it's about the brand. If no one gives a shit about the brand, it doesn't matter how high risk it is, no one's gonna care. So like you're gonna need to still build a community and an audience and some feelings towards your brand, whether it's a love or hate, right? Like it's gonna be interesting, but I do see the value in hardcore mode 100%.
Yeah, especially in Web3. See how you quickly you changed me from a hater to a lover? All you gotta do is say NFTs, I'm in.
Yeah,
Hardcore what? Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't even say that. I didn't say I didn't like it.
No.
And the good news is we see a lot of projects leaning into this, right? So just in the past couple months, Dead Drop and Machines Arena, they both have extraction mechanics that are built into their gameplay, right? So whether it's a first person or third person shooters or other combat games, if you've got the ability to progress through levels and you can get items or gear or tokens or coins or whatever it might be, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to hit a certain point where you extract out of the level. You can do so at those certain checkpoints, but if you don't make it that far or you choose not to extract and you choose to keep going and you die, everything that you got on that entire run is gone. This, again, it adds that real strong risk-reward balance that players are always trying to find, get as close to that line as they can without dying. And I think that's going to be super interesting to watch if these games have more or less exposure and interest from the general public, because I could see it going both ways, right? From a gaming perspective, the first time that you failed to extract and you had an item that was worth $20,000, let's say, and you're like, all right, I'm going to sell this thing if I can get it out, you get wiped out 50 feet before the finish, before you can bounce out. All of a sudden, like, you're either going to hate that game and you're out permanently, or like you're so in love with it that you're never leaving, right? It's probably going one of either direction. I think it just increases that overall, emotion that's involved with the gameplay.
I was going to say, imagine the feeling of, again, like you say, having something super high value in your heart. You're like, yo, I need to get the fuck out. Like, I need to go. Like, and that feeling of like, yo, it's going to heighten it 100%. Not everything needs to be super hardcore mode, like what Nora's doing, where it's permadeath each session, where again, once your character is dead, it's dead. I think, again, that kind of what Dead Drop is doing and the extraction, like shrapnel and all that, I think what they're doing is a nice little balance of, cool, there is risk to it, but it's not like, oh man, I wasted all of my time. And it's, the way I look at it is any kind of matchmaking, ranked matchmaking, for example, Dota. If you win, you get a couple of MMR that pushes you up. If you lose, it goes down a little bit. So you're constantly going back and forth. And I think that's what I'm seeing with like Dead Drop and things like that. Like that's how that's going, rather than if you die, you lose everything. You can go back in. And if you take all of your items in and then die, that's on you. Like there's no one to help you with that. You fucked up there. As long as you kind of understand, or even if they limit, like, yo, you can take 2 items in and kind of a max of 2 items, you can kind of balance that out. But games like that need a lot of balancing. But yeah, the value is 100% there. Sorry, Mona, I cut you off. I apologize.
No, I was just going to say I'm sold. That's all. And even I'm sold. And I can even, this is how I'm going to transition us into the next segment. You know what I'm going to ask you, Annie? Hardcore mode. Does it apply to hyper casual or AAA games?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. I can't off the top of my head, but I'm sure that there are some. In general, though, most gamers, when we're thinking about casual or hyper casual games, you're wanting to just hop on and play for 5 minutes, 20-minute sessions at a time, and then you're out
on the toilet.
I call it make it hardcore, no?
Yeah,
you can make it hard.
Yeah,
and you're never leaving the toilet, like TSG.
Yo, guys, I need to bounce.
I think you're going to see that a lot more with like high quality AAA style games. I haven't seen many games building for console, but primarily computer based. And I think the big question I wanted to talk through today is, as we look at the sector, we see a handful of games that are very well capitalized. I'm going to say meaning 30, 40 million or more that are building, and then you see a fair number that are somewhere in that let's say 5 to 15 million that are building more, more casual gaming experiences. Where do you guys think the first successes are going to come from sustainable games? Is it going to be one or two major studios that have a big hit? Call it AAA, call it whatever you want, or are we going to see it more take the shape of there are a lot of these smaller indie games that begin to spin up, and all of a sudden people begin to just start playing them, and they're like, hey, this is a fun game. I can just enjoy it, and at the end of the day, I've got my NFTs or my tokens or whatever I'm owning while I'm playing, and that's really going to maybe be more of a segue in because AAA games are going to take too long to build.
So I was going to ask, why do we have to pick? We need both. We've always needed both. Why do we have to pick? Why do we have to say hyper casual or AAA? Because some people are into games that don't require a lot of time and skill to play, and some people love the high budget, advanced graphics, storytelling, intricate gameplay mechanics. Some people are way into that. Yes, it takes longer to make, but I feel like we love both, don't we?
Yeah, I think so. I guess the question is more, which do you see having success first over the next year or two as this next crop of games is going to be launching?
People are going to gravitate toward a more hyper casual because I feel like a lot of people have very little attention span too. And they just want to, play, win, see a bunch of things on the screen, distraction, win, play, fun game, and then move on. Right?
I really feel like Mona's talking about her gaming experience. She's like, personally, I just want to see things happen.
Candy Crush, let's go.
How'd you know? Then comes Illuvium, and I'm like, wow, like I'm in a movie, right? It's like this immersive experience. I love immersive experiences. I do. So again, for me, I think it's going to be a mixture of both for me, but I feel like hyper casual is going to get the attention of people first. But then AAA is going to get people's attention by their immersive experiences, and they're going to lure people in and say, come in here and spend hours in here with us because you're going to play with this and touch that and get this NFT and talk to the community. You know what I mean? So yeah. I guess there was no answer there. I had no answer.
All right. So Mona, we're going to pass it down to TSG. TSG, what do you think?
TSG.
About what Annie said about hardcore mode with hyper casual games, there is, again, I don't know if I brought it up on this podcast, but there is one that my wife is addicted to where it's just like matching tiles, and they've made it so difficult that like
Candy Crush.
Yes, it's similar to that, but it's like it's a sheep game. It's absolutely absurd. Once you complete the level, you get a sheep. It's not even an NFT. It's just like you collect sheep. Like it's so weird. She'll legitimately spend hours on this thing, and she's completed it like 3 or 4 times. Like it's just insanely difficult. And it was a thing that anytime someone completed it, they would post it on
hardcore mode.
Yeah, it'd be crazy. Like I swear to God, I would be working and randomly my wife will run in, and if she's running towards me, I know what's happened. She's on the final level and she's about to complete it. She's like, "Oh, look at this!" She's like, "Oh," and she's like, "Oh, you pressed the last ones." Like she just loses her mind. So there is some like hardcore or incredibly difficult content in hyper casual. That was just the conversation. What I wanted to ask you with the question you posed was, do we consider Axie hyper casual? Because I wouldn't say it's AAA, but I also don't think it's hyper casual. What do you?
No, I would say it's casual.
Yeah, it's in the middle is what I would say. All right. So going back to your question then, what is going to bring more success to the space or more success originally? Hyper casual or AAA? I think the answer is, in my opinion, clearly AAA. The reason I say that is there are a lot of barriers to entry for multiple reasons. There are a lot of barriers to entry to the space as it is. Hyper casual, like you say, Mona, is short-lived. It's short-term, and I don't think people are actually going to do the research. Like, there's not going to be a game. I can't imagine having a game where I'm like, all right, look, I'm going to play it and then drop it. We go into these games knowing that that's going to happen. I'm not going to go into a game where I know that's going to happen and say, I need to learn how to get involved in this space and build set myself up to play in this infrastructure. That just seems absurd to me. A game like Harry Potter, like Hogwarts Legacy that just came out that took the world by storm, the new Star Wars game that's coming out, the new Zelda game that's coming out. These big titles you can see already starting to set the gaming world, the gaming community on fire. They're getting really excited. Like AAA games is what gets gamers really, really excited and really wanting to invest all of that time. Hogwarts Legacy was the most streamed game. That's definitely the way I think we're actually going to onboard people, because that's what's going to make them say, yo, I need to set this up to play this. Yes, Mona?
I have a question, but do you think it's also because, would you agree that when you think about, and I'm going to talk on behalf of the mainstream, do you think that AAA games, because there's a level of FOMO and there's a level of, it's a new thing for the mainstream, and of course people love storytelling and want to be a part of this immersive experience, do you think that people would choose that over hyper casual because AAA is a new concept and a new, you know what I mean, for the mainstream?
No, the reason I say that, and I want to clarify, I think there's definitely a role for hyper casual. I completely get that. But to answer the question specifically, what do I think is going to garner more success first? AAA. To answer your question of why, it's going to be a bigger impact. It's going to be a bigger cultural movement. Again, there are so many people that didn't want to play Harry Potter, or because there was so much around it, it gives it a better chance to go to reach the mainstream. You know, if
okay,
you know
but
what
don't
I mean.
use one that's after a film. Let's just use Alluvium versus name a hyper casual that you think mainstream loves.
Clash of Clans.
Okay, go.
In regards, again, it really depends, man. It really depends. Clash of Clans is a hyper success. Okay, when I think of hyper casual, and there are a lot of hyper casual games that are very successful, but the majority aren't. The ones that I'm looking at that I say are toilet games are legitimately like, just pull the thing back and let the ball go down. Like I downloaded that a couple weeks ago, but I don't know for fucking what reason. But I knew it. I saw it on Instagram and I was like, all right, look, let me just try this game out. And they always market it on Instagram. It's always the case. But yeah, like when I see that, is that really gonna go mainstream? Is that really going to, for a very short period of time? To answer the question, what's gonna be more successful? It might reach a lot of people, but might be short-lived. Is that what you want? I don't know. When I think of success, I think of brand. And when I think of brand, I think of AAA. You're not going to get the chances of building a dedicated following and community about a hyper casual brand is very small. Again, Clash of Clans is one. And I would say that's not even hyper casual anymore.
Why can't you have both? Mixture. Why can't you have a hybrid? Why can't AAA adopt more casual elements to appeal to a wider audience in that way? And vice versa.
When we say hyper casual, I'm thinking more like Candy Crush, maybe Farmville. Farmville's leaning towards more casual.
I would even
Farmville couldn't be AAA.
No, it could. And you have games like My Time at Porsche. You've got Stardew Valley, which is pretty much Farmville, just a AAA version. But again, when I'm saying hyper casual, I mean those stupid games.
Like Flappy Birds or like Pac-Man. Or those are examples of
right.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, maybe to differentiate, because I think, for me, the question is more like maybe more casual versus AAA, right? And casual games, I would say, are those that you might play for 20 minutes at a time. The hyper casual, you might play for like 30 seconds at a time, and that's that's long enough for it. I think these are good points. When we look at the market for hyper casual games, you want that barrier to entry to be basically zero, right? Like hit the download button and away you go, and you're going to play for a few minutes, and that's probably good enough. So
which
I definitely feel you on that
right now, right? Like I think it's not the case right now, which is massive hindrance to the potential of hyper casual games.
I think I wonder though if we're going to see maybe players begin to enter the space looking for like a higher quality, more advanced title, and they might though just decide, okay, now that I'm here, I'm going to stay and start making most of my gameplay. Kind of to your point, Mono, that both are going to be able to exist. Come for the AAA title that draws your attention, and then stay for all the casual games that are around as well, where you have a chance to be a part of the ecosystem. I kind of wonder if that may be the way that it goes, or it could be the opposite, right? People may find a game that's casual and not even know that it's a Web3 game, and then all of a sudden start getting reeled into the sector a little bit further, and before they know it, then they start looking for more advanced options that are out there.
Blankos is what I think of when you say
Blankos
that.
is a good example.
Sure. What I think of, yeah, I don't know, man. It's gonna be weird. Like, it's gonna be weird. If we say success, I think it's gonna be AAA. And I'm not even saying it has to be Alluvium. It's just what I understand from like branding. That's not to say you might have one or two pop-offs with Happy. I just think it's gonna be tough. But yeah, they both have roles, 100%. I'm not shitting on either. They both have their own roles to play.
We all want our cake and eat it too. So I'm going to vote for a hybrid of all the above.
Right, yeah, I'm voting for. Actually, yeah, so
I want to go hardcore when I want to go hardcore, but if you dangle NFTs in front of my face, I will.
I will reconsider.
I will reconsider. I will watch your AAA especially if it has NFTs in it. So
yeah, that's all I should have said. But these AAA
you should have just said
Web3.
Just give one NFTs, she'll do anything.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. I was like a crackhead. It's like, yo, give me those NFTs.
Oh, great. Now the community is going to go quote me on Twitter. Just a moment.
What's the Dave Chappelle meme? Dave Chappelle meme. We just put space on it. Be like, yo, NFTs.
Yo, got any more of those NFTs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that he has like this, he was wearing a red cap and he's like,
on that note, coming back to the roles that we've all got to play,
yes,
try and rein us back in here. So moving from the various types of games that are going to be emerging, we're going to talk for just a second about our sponsor who is there for all of it. So again, I think everyone watching knows Ethlizards is sponsoring Gaming on the Block. We appreciate the community, and as a project, there's been some very extensive changes that are happening to Ethlizards. You guys both know, being a part of it as well, Ethlizards has rolled out our new white paper. There is a substantial amount of development work that's being done with our partners. So Ethlizards is going to begin putting out some products, working on co-building with some of the top quality Web3 games in the sector. And so this is going to include not just gameplay, also some of our partners in the infrastructure and ecosystem space. So we talk about things like security and onboarding process and research and marketing and so forth. So Ethlizards is intending to be there whenever you see one of the most high quality sustainable Web3 games emerge over the next years. And so really excited for those that are watching that have not checked it out. Come into the Underground Lounge on Discord. Come find us on Twitter. The links are going to be in the description below, as is normally the case. We look forward to seeing you around Ethlizards going forward. So
this is where I need my sound effects.
Yeah, we need the sound effects.
Yeah.
Sorry, Annie. We rudely interrupted you with fake sound effects.
Being able to share with you guys what's coming in the sector is amazing. So again, big thanks to our community for their support and to our audience. We look forward to seeing all of you in our next episode of Gaming on the Block, coming to you soon. Peace out.